Go to homage.com to get some of the freshest clothes in sports. And don't forget to use the promo code WORSTTAKE at checkout to get 15% off. NFL Hard Knocks. It's the show that everybody watches, but nobody wants to host. Because year after year, eligible teams play hot potato with HBO in order to not host the show. Teams are deadly afraid of this show. They are scared of hosting Hard Knocks. And why? Well, the most stated reason by NFL coaches by far is that they believe Hard Knocks is a huge distraction, that it takes away from their ability to build a team because the cameras and the outside interests just make it too hard for them to coach and get their team ready for the regular season, even though these dudes are NFL players. And yes, while that take is wildly overused and wildly cliched, it is a fair take. But see, I think sometimes the word distraction gets used as exclusively a negative thing, when necessarily a distraction is not always a negative thing. Take a look if you're the Browns. They had the story that they were dysfunctional and all of that jazz, and then Hard Knocks came and it distracted everybody from the dysfunction going on in the building because they showed nice clips of Baker. They had Bob Wiley in there distracting everybody from the mess that was the organization at the time. So yes, Hard Knocks can be a distraction, but hey, NFL coaches, it's not always a bad thing. But nonetheless, Hard Knocks always gets treated as a distraction by default, and I don't think that's fair. This show has had 13 seasons, and plenty of those seasons have gone off without note, have gone off without a single distraction, have gone off without really a memorable storyline. The best seasons aren't even the controversial ones. Sure, there's the 2010 Jets one, which had a controversy with Darrelle Revis holding out and all of that. But what do you remember? Darrelle Revis holding out or Antonio Cromartie not being able to remember all his kids' names? Do you remember anything bad about the Cincinnati Bengals when they hosted Hard Knocks? Or do you remember how Chad Johnson told everybody child please and made that a word for like a year and a half? Many teams have been able to have Hard Knocks and have a controversy-free time. And if they blame their season on Hard Knocks, then they're normally mediocre coaches who don't take responsibility for themselves. Hugh Jackson. And see, the magic of Hard Knocks is that it creates positive momentum for whatever team hosts it, whether they deserve positive momentum or not. The biggest case of this is the Browns. The Browns hosted Hard Knocks last year, a year removed from going 0-16. But despite all the dysfunction that they had going on with the world's worst head coach and Todd Haley, the Browns came out of that training camp, came out of that season of Hard Knocks, looking better, being talked about more positively when they entered. The Browns entered that season of Hard Knocks, a team that was 0-16 and made some moves in free agency, but nobody was sure about, to ending that season of Hard Knocks and all of a sudden being a sleeper wild card pick. So yes, on that level, Hard Knocks is a bit of a distraction. But if you're an NFL coach and you're afraid of handling hype and high expectations, you're in the wrong business. I think NFL teams and coaches look at Hard Knocks the completely wrong way. Teams should be fighting for the opportunity to be on that show instead of being afraid. Hard Knocks is almost a guaranteed way to repair how the outside views your organization. And if there is one team that is in a little bit of a need of repair on how everybody views how they work from the outside, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. This last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers have not resembled the rockin' of organization that they have been since the start of the millennium. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not like Pittsburgh went to absolute crap last year. I mean, they came one game away from being in the playoffs. They still are a very good team. And just because they went through the controversy and obviously lost players does not mean that they aren't still a very good team. And also, I don't want to act like I'm ignorant to Steelers history. The Pittsburgh Steelers organization is not shy from having controversial players. If you look at any era of Pittsburgh football, there's definitely at least one dude on the roster that everybody hates that's not a Steeler fan. And sometimes, even if they are a Steeler fan, they hate the dude. But while Pittsburgh has always had those kind of players, they've always been able to use those players to their advantage, to be able to take advantage of a market inefficiency. But this year, they let those players derail their whole season. They let the drama that those players had consume the season and consume a large chunk of the offseason. From Le'Veon Bell's holdout and the beef that the offensive line publicly had with him, to Antonio Brown's beef with Big Ben. Love or hate the Steelers, this amount of drama and topics and headlines coming out about the team that's not about games is completely unusual for this franchise. Eventually, the drama got so bad to a point to where people are questioning Mike Tomlin's ability to be the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hall of Fame head coach Mike Tomlin. The drama got so bad that people are actually calling for his job. And he's a Hall of Fame coach. But that aside, the drama was bad. The beef between Big Ben and Antonio Brown got so big and boiled over to the point to where Antonio Brown threw a football at Big Ben and eventually got suspended for the last game of the year. Not only did he get suspended for that game, a game that they needed to win to stay alive in the playoffs. Now, granted, they're playing the Bengals, but, they still needed everybody. They still needed the win. But then they got forced into a situation where they had to trade Antonio Brown for a third of his value. And while Steelers faithful may try to downplay the loss of two all-pro caliber players, the reality is you don't usually lose talent like that on offense when your quarterback is 37 and get better, especially when the better part of the division is currently in a arms race to take over the division. So if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, how do you build excitement? Missed out on big free agents. You made a little bit of a splash in a draft by drafting Devin Bush. So how do you build excitement? How do you start to repair that great Steelers image back? How do you generate the hype that you need for the season? See, Hard Knocks has never been hosted by one of the NFL's bedrock, top-tier, well-run, from top to bottom, from a public view organizations. Now, I'm not trying to throw slight on any other team that has hosted Hard Knocks. There have been good organizations that have. The Ravens did, but when they did, they were only 5 years old. The Dallas Cowboys have, but it's debatable whether they're well-run, especially in the era that they were covered. But that being the case, how well run Pittsburgh is, not just from a football standpoint, but from a organization, from a business standpoint, Hard Knocks would make that organization look amazing. It would make them look like this machine. And it would generate a ton of excitement from the Steelers' nationwide fan base. Also, they would be able to put a spotlight on two players that would definitely be huge Hard Knock stories. I mean, Juju Smith-Schuster would be a natural in front of the camera. He already has a YouTube channel. He already has a fun personality, and he's young, and his teammates just love him, and from a personality standpoint, from how they're viewed by the public, Juju Smith-Schuster is almost the exact opposite of Antonio Brown. And then you flip to Le'Veon Bell's replacement, and you got a guy like James Conner, who beat cancer while he was in college at Pitt and is now playing for the Steelers in a prominent role. That's an amazing story. But most importantly, it would be able to give people, Steelers fans and just NFL fans, a deeper look and a deeper appreciation for Mike Tomlin. Now, I'll just let it be known, I'm a Browns fan, obviously. I hate the Steelers. It's hard for me to make this video and say these nice things about the Steelers because I'm a Browns fan. But I think that Mike Tomlin has been given so much disrespect over the last year from fans and national media pundits alike that he deserves a platform to be able to show everybody that he is the Hall of Fame coach, that he's proven on the field that he is. You see, the thing about the Steelers is that they're very similar to how the Spurs are in the NBA. They aren't a real flashy organization. They aren't a real sexy organization. They're a very popular organization, but they're not sexy. So people tend to take their greatness for granted and take how long they've been as good as they've been for granted. Now, me as a Browns fan, ain't nothing I take for granted about Pittsburgh because I have had to witness it 2 times a year and be on the wrong side of it, so it's easier for me to appreciate this. But the fact that people are calling for the job of Mike Tomlin because of a little bit of drama between 2 players is absolutely ridiculous. And I think a season of Hard Knocks will show people that Mike Tomlin is not this soft, pushover coach that nobody respects and that he lets all this drama go off. I think it would kill that narrative, because if you actually got to see what Mike Tomlin was about, I'm pretty sure people would change their tune about Mike Tomlin. I think people would gain a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin that for whatever reason they lost. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, after all the drama, you just had to get rid of 2 of your best players that you've had in the last decade. Restoring the image of your Hall of Fame coach should be a priority, and Hard Knocks is absolutely the tool to get that done. Perfect. Now, a natural question is, why does Pittsburgh need the hype? They're a great organization. Well, right now there's not a lot of excitement for Pittsburgh, obviously, and their quarterback is getting to be dangerously old, and they don't really have a backup plan. It depends on how you feel about Mason Rudolph, but Now they as I said before, they drafted the extremely talented Devin Bush, and they had some solid free agency signing, but no big names. And then when you look at what the rest of the division had to offer and what they did this year, then you start to see how the Pittsburgh Steelers, from a media standpoint, are starting to fall behind. Baltimore brought in guys like Mark Ingram and Earl Thomas, and they have a young, exciting, might be even revolutionary quarterback in Lamar Jackson. And the cherry on the top is they have a young, exciting quarterback to get behind, and a quarterback who is one of the more popular ones in the NFL. And not to be outdone by the Browns, the Bengals have made huge splashes this offseason by re-signing superstars like Bobby Hart and drafting Drew Sample in the 3rd round. Hey, oh, okay, I'm done. They also signed B.W. Webb. Hey, Bengals fans, please don't wish bad things on me. I do love you, but you know you guys have been deserving this for a while. But anyways, the point is that the Pittsburgh Steelers are right now in a prime position to be forgotten about in the AFC North. They stood pat while the Browns and Baltimore Ravens started to engage in an arms race. 2 teams are spending and making moves rapidly to take over the AFC North, and the Pittsburgh Steelers lost 2 of their best players. And not only do these 2 teams add a lot of talent, they also have 2 very marketable, very young quarterbacks who could become some of the young faces of the league in a few years. Flip the script to Pittsburgh and you see an older, aging team with an old quarterback and an aging core. You look at Pittsburgh in comparison to the other teams in the division, and you just see naturally less to be excited about. A team that, while they have been consistent winners and definitely do not deserve to be ruled out by any means, they also can't help but be forgotten about. And right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hard Knocks is the only light bright enough to help them shine out of the shadows. See, Hard Knocks should be looked at how police departments view those cop reality TV shows. Instead of Hard Knocks being the boogeyman in the closet that NFL coaches look at it as. And I think that is in large part because NFL coaches tend to take themselves a bit too seriously. I mean, come on, they don't want Hard Knocks because it may be a distraction in their minds. In their minds, they think the cameras are going to make their team lose focus. But this is the NFL in 2019. Hard Knocks or no Hard Knocks, there's always going to be a camera on these guys. There's always going to be a spotlight on these guys. There's always going to be somebody listening to these guys. If these guys want the spotlight, they're one tweet away. They don't need Hard Knocks to do that. They don't need HBO to do that. Most of the times, for the big stars, these guys have their own documentary team. These guys are already famous. And somehow NFL coaches think that these Hard Knocks cameras are the one opportunity they have to lose focus. That's ridiculous. And it's honestly kind of disrespectful to think that players can't handle that when they probably get trolled 24/7 on all of their social media accounts because they're famous. So of course I can see how somebody like John Gruden could get all pink and sweaty and worked up about Hard Knocks and talk about how it sucks. But the Steelers really should look at this as a beneficial business opportunity. A way to not generate excitement for the team, but to keep them from being forgotten and being buried by some of the league's more exciting teams that just happen to play in their division. So all of that involved to show respect to Mike Tomlin, to allow Mike Tomlin to show everybody why he's a Hall of Famer, to allow the Pittsburgh Steelers to not be forgotten this season by some of the league's more exciting teams. These are all reasons why I strongly believe that not only should the Pittsburgh Steelers want to host Hard Knocks, not only should the Pittsburgh Steelers host Hard Knocks, but if the Pittsburgh Steelers host Hard Knocks, it'd probably be one of the best seasons ever and a win for all NFL football fans. That is going to be it for this week. Let me know in the comment section what team you think should host Hard Knocks, and if you think that your team should look at Hard Knocks as a positive thing. I obviously think it is a positive thing. I think it can only help you, but you may think differently. Let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching the video and getting all the way through to hear me talk. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding the notification bell so you can be notified when I upload, which is 3 times a week. And if you have a buck or two to spare, please consider joining the Patreon so you can have your name at the bottom of this video on this nice little sweet ticker that I'm hovering my hands over. But that's going to be it for this week's video. Thank you for watching and have a great night.